Hey guys, welcome to Croke Park in Dublin, Ireland. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Chris Halicke. We're from DK Pittsburgh Sports. The Steelers held off, I think is an appropriate verb usage.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings by a score of
24-21.
Still up there.
24-21.
24-21.
And should not have been that close.
It should not have been that, as Patrick Queen just said right now. That game needed to end at 24-6, and that's all we'll have to say about that. However, let's look at the bright side. Listen.
There was a lot more bright side of it.
There was, there was a lot more bright side in this one than in any of the first three games.
100%.
My opinion.
No.
You agree?
Yes, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to watch this and be yelling at us right now saying, what are you talking about? This is another Mike Tomlin game in which he let off the gas. No, for 3 quarters, and yes, he shouldn't have let off the gas, but for 3 quarters, the Steelers were the better football team on offense, on defense, except for special teams with the blocked field goal. But in so many ways, the Steelers were the better football team today.
And you know, the Steelers were better than the previous Steelers.
Yes.
That's the part that gets me more than anything else. Chris, you and I just went through that locker room. We were
barely.
Barely. There's one half of it was for one half was for offense, one half was for defense. These are soccer locker rooms.
Yeah.
And like the Steelers are on this side, the Vikings on that side. And going in there, talking to the individual players, there was no BS here. These guys they understood what they did well. Mm-hmm. They understood what they need to still do better. Yep. But man, did they go like, it's about time.
Oh, yeah.
It's about time they were able to do this, able to do that, able to do this, able to do that. All the stuff we've all been complaining about.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the first things, the first person I talked to in the locker room was Patrick Queen. And I straight up asked him, it was like third downs. Like, you got, especially third and long. Last week, they were atrocious on third and long against the Patriots. This game, I swear, every time I was putting it into our live file or our live chat on our app, I was like, another third and long and they get a sack. Another third and long and they get a sack. Another third and long and they get a pick. You know, it's just like every time it was third, like outside of like one went scramble, every time it was third and long, the defense did its job and shut them down. And that's what a defense is supposed to do, especially one of this caliber.
One of the things that I felt best about in being in here and talking to these guys afterwards, some of the stuff that Chris and I go over up in the press box, there was no press box. So it was really loud. You're just outdoors. So it's not the same as the conversations we usually have. No. We had to shout out over Zombie.
Oh God, that was so awesome.
Okay, so anyway.
Oh my God.
We'll talk about Zombie later, promise. But coming down here and hearing these guys say, like, it wasn't just me that made that play. It was. I mentioned the one pick. Was it Deshaun Elliott's pick? I said that I'll give partial credit on that to Y.A. Black. Uh-huh. Now, as I'm talking to Deshaun, Darius Slay sitting next to him, and Slay saying, didn't he get a piece of that? And I go, I don't know about that. You see the official stats or the film. But Cam Hayward had his hands up in front of the T.J. Watt interception. And I said to Cam, did you get a hand on it? He said, I have no idea, honestly. But I know that T.J. did, and I know we made the play.
Yeah.
That's the way things were happening defensively. Offensively, it wasn't much different, was it?
No. We talked with Kenneth Gainwell after the game, which, by the way, coming into this game, you find out 90 minutes ahead of time Jaylen Warren's not playing. Everybody starts, almost rightfully freaking out, being like, man, the Steelers even going to be able to run the ball at all today because Gainwell's not been very impressive over the first 3 games.
And Caleb Johnson's been less impressive.
Right, but Gainwell goes out there, 19 carries for 99 yards, and the only people he wanted to credit were the offensive line.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and it never stopped in there. They were walking past the offensive line guys going, yes, yes, yes. And Jaylen Warren, who, by the way, he's not seriously hurt. I checked with him, and I put this up on our app. For those of you who've downloaded our app, you would have known about this a good while ago. Jaylen said it's not a serious injury. The reason that he was given this week off was exactly what you and I had expected. The same is true of Joey Porter, which is that there's a bye week next week. So why not
get them right?
Buy the additional 2 weeks of recovery and really get Jalen right. And go ahead and trust Gainwell. Go ahead and trust Caleb Johnson. You know, we're going to get into the line and that in a little bit here, but those guys, I thought, ran the ball well.
Oh, very well. And listen, for as good as Gainwell...
Caleb eventually.
No,
I'm sorry, a little asterisk
no,
there.
but what I'm going to say with that was, like, obviously, like, Gainwell, yes, he was great, but he's also a pro. You know, I understand, like, when he has a game like that, it's not the most surprising thing he's been in the league. Caleb Johnson's a rookie, and he has had one of the most atrocious starts that you can think for a guy who had a lot of hype coming out of the draft. Even though it was a third-round pick, a lot of hype. Really great rusher at Iowa, but obviously he's just been in his own head. The kickoff return debacle, but then he comes out here and the first couple carries aren't so great. But
slowed down.
But he had the one where he kind of made this cut and got upfield for like 8 or 9 yards, and I felt like that's all he needed to get some confidence, to get things going.
Felt like college football.
Yep.
That was interesting. The one run that he had down here to the right side, is that the one you're thinking of?
No, I'm talking about the one down here. I think it was the first one where he like really kind of made a cut.
There was one he had over here where he went around the edge, which is, again, something that we saw him do in tape in college.
Yeah.
And he did it here, and he did it with some confidence. And he goes back to the huddle because that's the other thing that he's used to doing.
Yeah.
A lot of good things happened, and they happened in multiples. If you're going to be that person who's sweating out the finish, you're missing the point here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the real star/stars of this game.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Number one star of this football game, in my own singular, humble opinion, was the now, officially, thanks to that upper deck over there, legendary Spencer Anderson, whose number kept getting called here more than anybody else in the stadium because 74, by God, is eligible.
I mean, listen, if that's what it takes to get the running game going, then that's what it takes. But it worked, and Spencer Anderson they keep using him as a sixth offensive tackle. And listen, there are other teams that do this. You know, so
I've said, okay,
yeah.
That's the only thing I've been talking about all week was I said,
Yeah.
just put somebody else out there because you had to block at some point.
Yeah.
And I was using Spence's name and I was saying, or have Darnell be on the left side or both. Well, guess what? To the head coach's credit, and I do mean that, and this is someone pretty critical of the guy, okay? That's the adjustment that needed to be made. One way or another, they needed to block.
Yeah.
That was how I was just in casual conversation here with DK Metcalf. I said, that's how you got open for these things. He goes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's what happened.
That's why I wrote about it ahead of the game. I wrote about it ahead of the game, like, you got to run the ball. I've been talking about it all week on Double Shot of Steelers. I've been talking about it. I wrote about it ahead of the game. You got to run the ball. That's how things are going to open up for you. If you can run the ball, if you can make the defense, not saying you have to go off for 60, 70 yards in the first quarter, but if you can show the opposing defense, hey, 1st and 10, we're going to get 6 yards. Hey, 1st and 10, we're going to get 7 yards. If you can do that, strike that fear in, then things are going to open up, and that's exactly what happened. Not just the throw to DK, but also the one over the middle on the first touchdown drive. There was just one where, DK is wide open over the middle. Wide open.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff opens up more often when you can run the ball.
Everything happens when you can block and buy yourself time space to run the ball, but time to run your routes.
Yeah.
And when I think of, remember I bumped you when this happened. There was a 9-yard run to the right. Was it Caleb or was it Gainwell?
I don't remember.
All right, it was over here. It was early, and I said, "Oh yeah, end of the third quarter." I take it back. Where where whoever the running back was went running to the right side, had his pick of holes. It was like Price is Right. You're just going to take his door, and these guys. When I mentioned that to the linemen here, they loved it. Jalen Warren's standing nearby, and Jalen goes. He goes, I would have liked to have been out there for that one. He goes, I saw you. saying this to the linemen. They were all pumping these guys up.
Darius Slay, by the way, was one of the guys, as he's walking past the offensive locker room, he's like, Kenny G was running like a madman today. Like, he was just like, God, he was just like, he's just doing all these different things.
He ran well, and Gainwell ran well, but they're going to keep coming back to this. It's just the offensive line.
There's nowhere to run without the offensive line blocking.
The offensive line made it happen. There was a play where they got stuffed going to the left side, and a couple of the guys on the line, and this I'm not going to tell you who their names were, but these guys were like, should have kept going to the right, because that's where everything was slanted and leaning and everything, and it was just good to see those guys confident, having fun, smiling, not forcing it for once.
Yeah.
Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier just walked out of the room together, and I just said, hey, what's up, guys? Hey! It's a very different feel. That's why I'm stressing to you here. This is to you. Let your fourth quarter go, okay? Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's not important. What matters is that these guys were happy with this. Let's go to a little bit of Spencer Anderson. This is the conversation I had with him. Got yourself some action out there. I know you've always felt like you're part of this line, but out there and having your number called 700 times through the loudspeakers, the fans, you probably didn't hear this in the upper deck, started saying 74.
Oh wow, no, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
It was good. Big run game, heavy plan. Just being ready when my number's called. We went over it all week, and just filling in where I'm supposed to be.
Is that the impression that you got from the coaches? Is, hey, let's get this done. We need to be able to run the ball.
Absolutely, yeah. That was kind of the whole theme of the week. Just essentially, shove the ball down the field, I would say, everything else opened itself up.
But you got that, because there were plays 8-9 yards that went over to your side. You're going to love this film, by the way. Okay, I'll tell you that right now. Yeah. But that went over there, and you could tell that whether it was Kenny or Caleb or whoever, they would look at what was there, and they would go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then just take off. I mean, did you feel that out there?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, on that goal line play where we got stuffed, I was on the backside, and I jokingly said to one of the other O-linemen, I was like, man, we should have ran it my way. But, I'm doing what's called. I'm never going to complain or nothing like that. But I was just joking like, hey, man, we should have ran it my way. But I kind of felt like we had a good run game going behind me and the tackles. And that was our main objective, to capture the edge and then get us through the second level, and hopefully the run game will take off.
Now, just as the later part of the game needs to be forgotten, the early part of the game needs to probably be more refreshed and remembered, because they went at the Steelers did, and I say this in a positive way, DK Metcalf, in a way that they really hadn't this season. It's not just, is it 80? 80 yards?
80 yards, yeah.
Dude just catches it, and then he does this thing. Hang on, I can imitate it. He does this thing. He's a much more athletic DK, but he does this thing where he gets the ball and his shoulders go all the way up. You can actually picture this.
Yeah.
And he's just...
That's being a track star.
That's all that is.
That's being a track star.
He's Usain bolting down the field here.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to watch, except if you're one of those defensive backs making a business decision. Why don't they do this more often, Chris? I think that's a fair thing to bring up here, and not negative. That's a positive play. He made a bunch of them.
Well, with talking with DK Metcalf after the game, that was obviously you're kind of asking the questions like, how did this happen? How does an 80-yard touchdown like that happen? And of course, he's breaking down the play itself. But once again, not to keep going back to the same thing, but he gave credit to the run game and the offensive line.
They all did it. And just even the one first down play that they had, I point to the field because it helps me to remember the play. Because we're doing this like right after we come out of the locker room, so we haven't like studied film or even gone through the stats or anything. Where he turns around at the sideline and the ball is waiting for him. That play we must have seen in Latrobe 500 times, just between Rodgers and Metcalf, where they mastered that timing. And it feels like, in a lot of ways, an unstoppable play. I want to see more of that. I don't just want to see more of the 80s and everything else, although you'll take them
Oh, yeah.
But there's something there between him and Rodgers, and I would just like to see Arthur Smith say, hey, I'm going to go with what I got.
Oh, yeah, and if you're able to run the ball like the Steelers ran the ball today, you're going to be able to attack the middle of the field a little bit more often. You're going to be able to stretch the field a little bit more often. But I think the one thing that this game at least did is that you have some plays that you've put on tape now, that you've shown against a really good defense. And you've shown how you do it, especially against a team that likes to run with these 2 high looks, which are very, very popular and modern nowadays. You have some plays that you've shown that you can do it, and I'm sure Arthur Smith has some other tricks up his sleeve to do it. It's just getting it done. But again, I think it all starts, and not to keep going back to the same thing, but it all starts with the offensive line. They can give Rodgers the kind of time, but also they're calling plays in which Rodgers is getting the ball out pretty quickly too. So
here's a little bit from the only DK capable of running 80 yards even in a straight line.
Yes, sir. I think they were in a cover 3 look and a cover 2 look, 2 high safety. CA took 2 guys out on the backside for me. Safety was too deep, and Aaron threw it on time, and I was able to sneak out the backside of it. But I don't think any of that happens without CA running his butt off on the backside.
Funniest pattern about this game, the strangest thing about it by a mile, I thought, was the sequences that were occurring repeatedly of players that we all didn't like anymore, that we were giving up on, that we were whatever. And I was critical of them as well. I'm not pretending I'm an exception to it. Watching them excel one after the other, we all gave up on Keanu Benton. We did. Don't lie. Don't lie. You never wanted to see him out there again. All he did was not just make plays. He made big plays, Chris. Big plays.
Yeah, he gets multiple sacks on the day, and that's great. But there were also a couple plays in which it doesn't necessarily go down as like a TFL or something like that, but he gets there and stops a run for no gain or 1 yard or something like that. It was also those plays too. It wasn't just the fact that he happened to get into the backfield a couple of times and actually got credit for like a sack or something like that. It was also some plays that you might overlook. If you're going to watch the condensed game on the NFL's channel after the game, they might not get shown on there, but they had just as big of an impact, because when you're able to stop the opposing offense on 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9, and then 2nd and 9 to 3rd and 8, and you're able to force them into those 3rd and longs, and then you see what the defense can do on those 3rd and longs, what they should be doing on those 3rd and longs. That's how you give the ball right back to your offense. And Benton was a big part of that today.
They did. And Benton, I went up to him after the game and I was like, dude, I felt like I kept coming and talking to him after games that were tough games for him. Yeah. But he sat there and he answered those, and he's been a guy who's had his chin up throughout this process. He's not sulking, he's not getting down about anything. So I went up to him today. I said, dude, if I'm getting you all those other games, I'm sure I'll get you after this one. So here's a little bit of my time with Keanu.
Keanu Benton, I don't even have a question, man. Like, what was that?
I think it's just everything falling into place. I feel like certain games I'm 1 second too late, half a second too late, but today it was falling my way.
Yeah, but it also looked like you guys were feeding off each other.
Yeah.
It was like, on one of your plays you came in, Cam was there, you had guys getting arms up.
Yep.
It's just, this is kind of what this was supposed to look like, right?
Yeah, that's still a football, and we made a big emphasis before this game and this week to go back to still a football and play aggressive and play with that energy, and that's the outcome.
Yeah, were you surprised that you guys had this energy with everybody talking about this and that and the trip and everything else? No?
Nah, I feel like once you're with the guys, our teammates, we kind of shut out that outside energy, outside saying, and we got each other back, and we know what we're capable of, so we go out there and achieve the goals that we set.
Serious question here, I'll let you go. Did you need this? Did you need this game?
I think we all did. I needed to win.
Keanu Benton.
For sure. I definitely did.
Guys who we weren't able to talk about much or didn't want to talk about much in the first 3 games who came back. It's not always performance-based. Sometimes it's injury-based. Having Deshaun Elliott back on the field, they're a different defense with him and without him, Chris.
Yes, they are. Listen, he makes tackles. He makes plays. He's in the right position a lot of the time. I talked with Patrick Queen after the game, and he's like, that's my guy. And that's my guy, man. Like he you could see how happy he was.
Yeah.
That he was back. he has a great impact on this defense for sure.
It was terrific to see him not just being out there, but also getting that pick that he did.
Yeah.
And when he did, it was timely. It was not the easiest pick. It might have looked that way on TV. He swears that the ball was tipped by somebody or something, and he said I would have caught it anyway, but they all say that. When you're looking at the rest of the team, guys who stepped up that weren't necessarily there before this. We were talking through the week, before I left Pittsburgh to fly over here, how Cole Holcomb had taken Peyton Wilson's job and he was going to be the guy on first down and second down, and Terrell Austin was talking about it Thursday morning. You come all the way over here, it turns out the Vikings might have gotten played as much as the reporters did. And that's okay. That's gamesmanship on their part. They're allowed to do that. I thought Peyton Wilson had some word looking for here. I thought this might have been the most, well, I'll use the word he used. He talked a lot about the game being simpler today. He said, I wanted to get out of my system all this thinking. And remember, we've been talking about this, where he looks like sometimes, Chris, he doesn't know if he wants to be here or there or take some circuitous route to something. He just said, I just put my head down and went where my instincts were telling me to. Mm-hmm. So that gets him sack, TFL, whatever it was that he got. Like I said, we haven't seen the stats. I thought he was outstanding.
Oh no, he was really
three
really good
down
today.
and everything.
Yeah. He was really good today. I mean, when he was running and when he was running to the ball, he was flying to the ball. That's when you really saw the speed. And it's not talking about just chasing guys down, which, by the way, I understand the Vikings eventually got in the end zone, but he nearly forced, he gets Jordan Addison on that busted coverage in the fourth quarter and hustles downfield, chases him down, makes that tackle, and they're one stop away from keeping the Vikings out of the end zone altogether after that. They don't even have a chance to do that if Peyton Wilson doesn't have that play.
Peyton Wilson has the speed, the capability, and the want to be a really, really, really good player in this league.
Led the team in tackles today by 13 tackles for Peyton Wilson today. 11 for Patrick Queen. These guys were all over the place.
Here's a minute I spent with Peyton Wilson.
Game that you had, I mean, you looked like you stepped up, stepped up a lot.
Yes, sir.
What went into your thinking here?
I think just playing ball, getting back to my game, not really trying to be this super overthinker. Just play ball, play fast, and make plays. And sometimes you're not going to play a perfect game all the time, but if you're flying around the field, you can make up those mistakes. And obviously, a ton of things I still need to work on, but just a step towards being the player that I want to be.
Final thoughts here from me and Chris before we sign off and head off to writing all that content that you're going to read on the app later. I'm going to start with the really obvious candidate here for a final thought, and that's Aaron Rodgers. I had gone to his defense, I think needlessly so, earlier this week in some content that I created, because I started to hear a little bit of this and that and arm strength and why isn't the ball going further downfield, and everything kept coming back, at least in my eyes, to the offensive line. What were those stats again?
18 of 22 for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 picks, passer rating of 119.7.
And he showed continued, okay, there was the fumble. You don't want him doing that out of the pocket, but my God, they gave him the Red Sea. All he needed to do was the Kenny.
Yeah, just slide.
But really, the full Kenny.
Yeah.
Okay. And he didn't. He falls on his face. Broderick Jones alertly and athletically gets the fumble recovery. I thought Aaron had, in some ways, maybe not so much his best game, because he impressed us so much in East Rutherford with some of those decisions. This game was different. This wasn't the New Jersey team breaking down.
Yeah.
Or falling apart. He had to hit his passes, and he did. He had to make his choices, and he did. He had to not worry about playing favorites, and he didn't.
No, because it was DK Metcalf earlier in the game, but then throughout the rest of the game, the Vikings obviously started paying a lot more attention, and that's when you want to see the run game keep going, because you want to because then, yes, you can start hitting some of those other targets. Which, by the way, Darnell Washington finally gets involved.
Darnell got multiple targets. Jonnu Smith was targeted over this. So none of this was Rogers isn't throwing to the middle or anything. Rogers got himself an extra blocker, guys. That's all it was. Sometimes he had two. Darnell didn't go out for a pass every time. Darnell stayed. We weren't counting it, but we were watching it.
Yeah.
Darnell stayed right in there against the left tackle, so they're out there with a 7-man line. So he actually had a chance to be some best version of Rogers, and I respect that. I respect what he did to win this game, and he did win this game. Don't lose sight of that.
I agree. Hard to choose one guy.
Don't. What's a concept?
Kenneth Gainwell, I'm sorry. I understand.
Go ahead, yeah. He wouldn't.
I know he gave a lot of credit to the offensive line, but he made a lot of runs himself too. He turned what the offensive line gives you a hole, but then he still threw some little subtle cuts here and there, through little shifty moves here and there. He got extra yards. He helped, and the one thing that I really loved, and yes, you would have loved to have seen them really just put the exclamation point on it, but the one drive where, he was helping run the clock out, and they get down, and then they have the 4th and goal. They choose to go for it. I know Rodgers desperately wanted to go for it, and Tomlin gets
desperately
into
is one term for it.
Yeah, I still think that they should have done the smarter thing and kicked the field goal, because then you get into the situation where they were at the end of the game, where if it gets to that point, you're at least you're forcing them to have to get into the end zone, not just settle for a field goal to force overtime. But I also understand you want to be aggressive. I get it. But if that drive would have finished off with an exclamation point, I think that would have been like, this was the Kenneth Gainwell game type, because he would have helped.
Yeah.
I think about the times in which Le'Veon Bell would not just have the big plays early in the game, but when the Steelers had a lead, they would just keep giving him the ball and keep giving him the ball and keep giving him the ball, and then they would just bleed the clock out and suffocate the other team.
Yes,
that Gainwell was helping do that.
He was. The fourth quarter too. He was. That's a really, really good choice. We haven't ticked you off enough. We're not signing off until we at least attempt to do that. Okay, I'm joking. We don't intentionally do that, but this probably will. This head coach in this situation did some things, and Chris just cited one of them, that could reasonably and fairly be deemed questionable. They could be called much worse than that. One of them is not kicking the field goal that puts you up into a really comfortable spot as a football team. It gets you 2 scores up. But he sees, this is where I'll defend Tomlin on this one, which is not my usual stance. Rodgers' eyes were blood red as he was coming to the sideline. And he's like this, and he's pointing to the kicking team to get to the sideline. Boswell's halfway out there. Yeah. I don't know if they showed this stuff on TV, because the cameras don't, necessarily catch everything.
In the non-press box.
But we're just watching this, and he basically, Boswell's halfway out there, the special teams guys, and he's like, "Get off of my field." Every once in a while, as a head coach in any sport or a manager in baseball, you have to show some freaking faith in your group. Now, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to throw the next one to you, which is the punt.
Yeah.
At the end, it was, I believe, 4th and 1.
It was
at the Minnesota 45.
Yep. 40, I think. 40 or 45.
It was 45, and then the punt ends up giving the Vikings the ball back.
Yep.
At the 20. But it looks like it's one of those cowardly punts. Go for it. Do something. What do you think about that punt?
Not a fan of it. But this is clearly where a coach shows his bias. Defensive coaches, and Mike Tomlin is obviously a defensive coach, like to put their defense on the field to win the game. And ultimately,
why?
Because they won
because they were playing well.
Right, they were playing well, and they gotten after Wentz all game long. I think it was 6 sacks at least. They had multiple picks, and James Pierre almost sealed it on the first play if he would have been able to get 2 feet down. But I understand that. But then you go to more offensive coaches. I mean, if that's Nick Sirianni for the Eagles, they push their way. They get their first down.
You don't have that.
And no, you don't. Well, Mike Tomlin says he does, or at least he's thought about it.
They don't have that.
But but I'm like the thing that I personally want to see there, and it's just me, my opinion. Get the fourth and one, move the chains, and if Gainwell's the one who gets it, now I'm not saying you're trying to get him 100 yards, but Minnesota's out of timeouts. You literally win the game. You win the game.
You're stealing my rebuttal on Tomlin's behalf.
Okay.
The only reason that I would be in favor of it this time, and I'm generally not in favor of these things at all, is that the clock was at a minute and change, and they were, in fact, the Vikings, out of timeouts. So you were going to have to go up the field against a pretty aggressive and feeling it defense, and they're going for a field goal. That's the important thing to remember here.
Yeah, I get that.
So if you give them the ball at the 45 or whatever, they only need to go 20 yards for that, and it's a lot easier to do that in a minute. So I thought the same thing, and I kind of, in my own head, I backed off it, and I said, I'm sorry. At that point, it's nothing other than clock and field position, clock and field position, clock and field position, and, of course, the scoreboard. I'm not giving them that field goal. I am not handing that field goal away and then going into all kinds of coin tosses and other crap in overtime.
Yeah, you never know. And I think if this were a game in which the defense is playing terribly, maybe Tomlin does go for it.
And he would say so.
Right.
He would say so. I didn't like the way my guys were going.
Right. And, obviously in this game, yeah. I mean, when the defense is playing well, I do understand it. Like I said, me personally, I think if you have other offensive-minded coaches, they're going for it. They're going for it. They're like, we're going to get the first down, and the game's over. And it doesn't matter because the game's over. They're out of timeouts. Fresh set of downs.
Yep.
We'll just sit on it the rest of the way and victory formation. Yay. But again, defensive coach, defense is playing well. He's going to put his defense out on the field to win the game, and ultimately they did. Yeah, they shouldn't have let the Vikings get 2 touchdowns. Yeah, they shouldn't have busted that coverage to let Jordan Addison get behind everybody, almost all 70-something thousand fans that were in the stadium.
And they shouldn't have won this game, according to almost everybody, but they did.
They did.
And they played their best game out of the 4. Coming over here late in the week, not one person, I talked to a couple of guys in there,
nobody said anything about being tired
complained or anything. A couple of them said they weren't great on sleep, but it didn't affect them in any way out here.
Yeah.
And actually, the game was really high tempo. This is nothing like the London game.
Oh no, I almost expected this to be a slow start. And when the Steelers went 3 and out right away, I'm like, this might be that type of game. Nope.
Guys, this is where you go get the app if you haven't done that. We see the number of people who watch the videos, and we see the number of people who download the app. And it makes us sad face, It's not cool. We're all the way on the other side of the planet for you, and we're doing that for the app. We're doing that for the content that we're producing on there, all the writing that we're going to do here tonight, when we could be carousing. Is that the word?
I could be going and drinking all kinds of pints of Guinness tonight, and I'm not. I'm going to be in my hotel room working or in a...
I don't know if carousing was the right word.
No.
I might have said something bad there. Carousing might mean something terrible. Go get the app, DK Pittsburgh Sports. Just do a search on your Apple or your Android device. Download it in for free, then email me. I'll do this on the plane flying back, okay? Email me at dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, and just say, I want the discount on the premium version. You don't have to, sometimes some people are writing and they're like,
just say, hit me up.
I got 3 more of those that just say, hit me up. They're awesome, okay? in all caps and whatever else here. Although one guy mistyped it and put butt me up.
Oh, boy.
I don't even want to know. See, now I'm getting myself in trouble. All right, guys, go get the app right away here. We're gonna go do the work so you have something to read on there. See you back in Pittsburgh.